What's up, guys? My name's Robert. I'm starting a YouTube channel or I don't know, what do you want to call it, a podcast. It's kind of weird because it's kind of funny because you see back here, I got a mic, I got the soundboard, got a laptop, but I'm not using any of it. I'm using my phone. Now, granted, the phone is the new Samsung Galaxy S26 Ultra. It's got a really nice camera on it. I figure I'll just start with this and gradually work my way up because honestly, I can't get this damn thing to work. I can't get it to eh, I wasn't gonna mess. I'm not gonna mess with it whenever I got a really nice phone and good picture quality right here. And anyways, like I said, my name's Robert. I haven't came up with a permanent name title of a podcast or YouTube channel. So that's still to be determined. Um, but anyways, why am I here? That's a pretty honest question, a common question that a lot of people, tend to ask themselves, when they start getting a little older, start going through life. It's like, why am I here? What's the purpose of life? You know, I'm not going to really talk, get all preachy and spiritual or, religious or anything like that. I don't want you to get that impression. Um, I am a spiritual person. I do believe there is an afterlife and all that stuff, but you'll just see. I'll just spread out little glimpses of it as I talk. Um, I'm going to cut these down to it's going to be talking about this first segment or whatever you want to call it. It's going to talk from 4 years, 5 years ago to where I'm at right now and what my current state is and what I want to do. What I'm trying to do, and so this is going to really resonate with people that are in active addiction, that are trying to get sober, people that are sober, that are new to recovery, that are new to um, living a sober life, and this channel's not necessarily about recovery. you know Now this first beginning of it, we'll be talking about it, but as we get along, you start understanding who I am as a person and what I want to do in my life and what I like, my likes and dislikes or whatever. But this first segment is pretty serious about recovery, about addiction. So hopefully this will resonate with some people that are going through a rough time, and maybe it'll shed a little light on a dark moment that they're having. So, anyways, let's go ahead and get started. I'm 39 years old. I'm from a small town around the DFW area in Texas called Mineral Wells. Um, I'm currently right now living in Lufkin, Texas. It's about 2 hours north of Houston, Texas. So, anyways, but throughout my life, I've always, traveled for work. I've been all over the country. My previous job that I've done was working on communication towers. And so, anyways, that's how I ended up here in Lufkin. Um, won't get I won't get too deep into the story. Long story short, I met a woman here. We both did the same kind of drugs. It was a toxic relationship. It was it was just toxic. And long story short, I ended up being put on probation for 6 years. Well, I was set to do 6 years of probation, and um, the charge was quote unquote burglary of a habitat at my own residence, at my own residency, which doesn't fucking make sense. But I'm not gonna freaking blame them. this is part of the process and part of the journey. This had to be done. You know, at first I was just hating everything, um, but um, but I was in my active addiction. I got put on probation, and I'm not from here, like I said. And for that being said, my probation officer said, "Well, since the incident happened at your residency, you can't be living there while you're on probation. Can't keep in contact with the woman that you know that was part of the report." And so, anyways, you got 30 days to find a place to live, or we're going to revoke your probation. You're just going to go spend, you know, up to 20 years in jail. That was like from 5 to 20. So I'm looking at like at least 5 years. So I ended up having to leave my place where I was living, and I ended up losing my job, climbing towers, because they won't let me leave the county, let alone, I'll be gone for 3 or 4 months at a time. I have to monthly visits, so I ended up losing my job because of it, and because of that, of me not being able to live at that residency, I ended up having to become homeless. It's not because I couldn't afford where I was living or I got evicted or anything. It's because of what I just said. They told me I had to find another place. I didn't know anybody around here. I couldn't call a buddy up and say, "Hey, dude, I need to crash on your couch for a while until I get it back on my feet." I lost everything. I went from climbing towers to living in a tent behind a Tractor Supply out in the woods. And a person that that I knew that had a friend that was a manager at a Red Lobster that was close to where I was camping out at. Got a job washing dishes, and it was eventually over time they started, eventually, told the managers that, "Hey, I'm a homeless," and there were times that were very embarrassing. Um, just them knowing, back in my mind, it's like they know you're homeless. I'm sure they know you're inactive, you're high or whatever. It's just one of everybody knows, and like it's just one of those things, really, got to me, So, anyways, but they were really helpful. They try to help the best they could with the resources that they had. And what I mean by that is, like on my days off, for example, I would go to Walmart, get some groceries that, refrigerated foods and stuff like that. And I remember Laura, Rusty, and Heather, the managers there, they would let me come up there on my days off. I'll come in through back. I'll be in PJs. I'll be in PJs and just casual clothes. And I'll come in. They'll let me put my food, keep my food in the fridge and in the freezers. And there will be a room that is for people that are having a party, with a large number of people having a party. But they when that room ain't being used for parties, they use that room as a break room for the waiters and waitresses. So, anyways, I will come there, spend all day on my days off as much as I can, and I'll just be in a booth with my phone, watching YouTube channels, TikTok, whatever, and I'll be sleeping in the booths, until it's time to, till they're, it's almost time to close. And and there would be times, like for me, I'm a very I like to dress nice. I like to be clean, and like this was very hard for me to, At first, I started buying gallon jugs of water and being by my tent and just giving myself what they call a whore bath. And I mean, like I would do that, but like one day at work, I'm cleaning the dumpster, and they got a water hose out there, and they had I noticed the water was hot, and during this time it was around fall going into winter time, and man, that hot water felt good, and so I asked, I'll ask the manager, I asked Laura, hey, can I use that hose out there, and so I could take a shower, a hot shower. I'll come, late at night. She said, yeah, just come after work hours, and if the police happen to see you or something and they stop you, just give me a call and I'll vouch for you. And that was really cool of her to be, knowing my situation, that she would help me out. Like I said, that place really tried their hardest to help me, you know, and I'm very grateful for them to, do what they've done for me. And anyways, so anyways, I one thing I just, homeless people, you can't trust them. There's two different types of homeless people. The homeless people that were like me, they're just down on their luck, just happen to be, have shit luck, that don't want to be homeless, that don't want to live that life. They're trying to get out of that. And there are homeless people that are, in also in active addiction, or just trying to survive. But the ways they're trying to survive, they don't care about work. They're lazy. I met a couple of homeless people that when they found out where I lived at, was camping at, now I can't say it was them, but it was kind of coincidence that they came, some homeless people came, slashed my tent, stole my backpack with my IDs. I lost all my IDs. And I mean, like, I remember the first week of me being homeless. I had my backpack as a pillow, and I have I skate. I had a longboard that was leaning up against a tree right next to the tree that I was sleeping in, or in the woods sleeping at. And I fell asleep. I wake up, I'm freezing, and my longboard's gone. I mean, like, these homeless people would come out, be out there in the woods, and like this person was watching me sleep and took my longboard. I mean, I was using my backpack as a pillow, but they took my freaking skate and my longboard, man. And I was like, what the? I mean, like, that's really, really, scary, because it could have been a lot worse. So that's whenever I started, like, you gotta look around for a campsite that, this campsite that I had was out, like, the way you had to go in, there was nothing but thorn vines all over the place, to where, like, I was making it to where, like, I don't want nobody trying to, if they knew I was out there, I did not want them to want to come out there, because it would be hell trying to get through all that, navigate through all that stuff. But there were times where my tent would be slashed, and and my stuff, I had food in a suitcase, because you had to have a hard suitcase, so animals won't try to, take, rummage through your stuff, but all my stuff be slung out. My backpack was taken. That had all my information because I was running late one day for work, and I overslept, and because I didn't have my phone wasn't charged because I ain't got electricity. So I'm hurrying up. I just fuck it, hurried up, got on my bike, came back later that day. All my stuff's just scattered out, stolen. Tent slashed up. It was from other homeless people. So it's hard for me to really be wanting to help the homeless out. In a sense. I mean, like, at first, when I first got off the streets, it was hard for me to be like, man, fuck them people. But like, there are some exceptions. There are some people I've seen that were just down on their luck, but anyways, but me being on probation, my probation officer, the time when I had my tent slashed, she was a real nice lady, sweet woman. I thought it was real sweet. She brought a tent to my job and for me, and I thought that was real sweet of her. So anyway, set up tent, and I moved another look. I constantly have to move locations so people won't find out where I'm at. Other homeless people won't notice where I'm living at, and it was very nerve wracking because having once you start accumulating a little bit of stuff, it's like, now I'll see why they have to have pushing shopping carts. I did this, I had to use shopping carts at times, but to put to move around, and I wouldn't move around because at daytime I would just wait till night. But the only thing I can tell myself is like, I'm glad I'm not from Lufkin, because it would be embarrassing for people that knew me to see me like this. And so anyways, and I was just in a negative, hateful frame of mind whenever I'm not at work. When I'm at work, I was enjoying myself because I felt like, okay, I'm at work. I'm not homeless. I'm not trying to figure stuff out. I'm living, I'm living off Cheddar Bay biscuits. I lived off those for a year. But whenever I'm outside of work, that's when I'm sad. I'm depressed. I got anger. Life is not, this is not fair. Why is the universe doing this to me? What did I do? I didn't do anything wrong. I've always been a good person, in my head, and so anyways, I, one probation visit, took a UA, I failed, and so my probation officer offered me to go to treatment, go to rehab, and she said it's going to be for 90 days. In my head, I'm thinking in my head, I don't want to fucking do it, but I don't want to fucking not comply to where like she's gonna like make things harder for me. Plus, well, think about it now, Robert. You got a bed. You get 3 square meals a day, and you're not in. At this point, summer's coming up, so okay, yeah, let's do this. I don't want to be out in the heat. Hell, I barely survived in the winter time, man. But so I went ahead and took the offer, and had to wait a couple weeks for a room to open up. So